Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Renee Sullivan here with David Pinto, Ron Hudson, Jay Scott, and Jay Dyson. It's been a while since we've actually done a webinar, so it's good to have everybody on here. And we actually just decided like a minute ago what our topic was going to be for today, thanks to Jay Dyson. So Jay, why don't you tell us about what you wanted the topic to be, or what topic you suggested and why, and we'll go from there.
I'm reading one of Robert Hollis's books right now, and the title of it is "How Is It Working?" In other words, how is life working out for you? And he was talking about the American dream. For Mr. Pinto, I guess it would be the European dream. So like you said, Renee, we'll just call it the dream. But what were we taught as kids? And we heard it a lot, whether it was on television and books, magazines, whatever the venue, we heard it a lot. And the dream was to be successful, we had to do certain things. We had to go to school, get good grades, graduate from high school and college, get a good job, save your money, and you would work yourself up to the top levels of corporate or whatever industry you were in. And as I was reading Robert Hollis's book, that question, the title kept coming back to me. How's that working for you? You know, have you realized that dream that they said was out there that we could go and so easily grab? Did you make it? Did you make it? For me, myself, I worked I was in the military, did that for 20 years, rose to one of the highest ranks before I retired, came out, got into corporate America. And I found that corporate America was even more of a grind than it was in the military, even more so. Trying to get to the top, there was a lot of barriers in front of you trying to get to the top in your career. Just about the time you thought you made it, something would come along and snatch it away from you. For me, it was, since I was in the IT industry, it was always being outsourced. Always being outsourced. Just about the time, David, you thought you had arrived, bang, the rug was snatched from under your feet. Now, that happens to a lot of folks out there. A lot of folks. And we get dependent on that job that we have out there. And then what happens? We can get let down. Get let down. I remember a period of time, about a 4 or 5 year period of time, that you weren't even getting raises. You know, the cost of living kept going up, but you were stuck at that income level, and sometimes for years. So the American dream, or the dream, if you will, have you realized that dream as they presented it to you when you were kids? Did you get there? For some of us, we feel like we haven't arrived. That's why we go into business for ourselves, isn't it? Because we know that there's something out there more than what we're getting from our careers, and that's something that is there for us to go get, is being in business for ourselves, controlling our own destinies, reaching out for that freedom that people said we would have if we did this, and this to realize the dream. Do you feel absolutely free? You know, one of the things that came to me as I was reading that book last night, you hear people talk about, and I made a post on my Facebook page about this also. You hear people talk about money it doesn't buy you happiness. Well, neither does poverty or being broke. So, you know, we live a life where it's a struggle. It's a struggle. When the economy takes a downturn, you feel that. Your job is in some respects, your job is not recession proof. You could lose your job when the economy does a serious downturn. You can lose your job. I talked to an individual 2 days ago. His 40-hour work week has now been reduced down to 25 hours a week. How do you live off that? How do you make it? When you look at retirement, and here in the United States, you look at your Social Security. If you have a pension, you may or may not have a pension that you can rely on. And you go from living above the poverty scale to living below the poverty scale. So much for the dream, huh? When there are factors out there that you have no control of, Jay, no control of whatsoever. I remember when I was teaching, I was in the post-secondary industry, or wasn't in like elementary school or high school or anything like that. It was more with private corporations. There were two schools within close proximity to one another, the school that I worked in and then another school. I remember coming to work one morning, and the other school the night before had chained the doors, but they never said anything to the people that worked there. You know, what a sinking feeling that must be, Ron.
Yes.
To go to your job and see the doors chained, nobody said anything to you. You didn't know it was coming. Companies can come and go, and you have no control over that. So what did we do? What did we do, Sensei, to eliminate those factors that we have no control over? We went into business for ourselves. Anybody got anything to add to that?
I do. I always have something to say. Always. No, what you're talking about is very real for many people, myself included. I actually was just talking with Jay a few minutes ago before the webinar started. I actually have an interview on this Monday because I've actually recently bounced from job to job because there is no stability, none whatsoever. The job I was working with turned out to be a complete bust because the company went bankrupt. I started. A week later, the company filed for bankruptcy. So like there's no guarantee in anything. And you know, it's very, if you're going to live the dream the way that you described it, the way that the book describes it, like you can't count on that. Because that was the dream I was technically going for, you know, when I, graduated from high school, I went to college, got the degrees, did that for a while, and then the back of my mind, I'm saying, you know what, I really could do something for myself. I couldn't make it work until recently, but there's got to be a better way than that so-called dream that we've been told to live, and that the solution honestly is starting your own business. And honestly, this couldn't come in a more perfect time, because I was actually reading a few days ago a post by Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and he was saying that and it was behind the whole idea of working a job, but what do you do after your job? Like, because most people still are not even making ends meet even after their job. But he's saying, what are you really doing with that extra time that you have when you're not working? He said, you should, instead of watching television, instead of like playing, Xbox or whatever that is, you could be having your own side hustle business, that you could be actually, achieving something for yourself. No matter what it is that you decide to do in your business, you could be doing that. And he's so right. And he's so right, because a lot of the people that I talk to in the BNI that I have, the social media guy in particular, he's like, he literally graduated from college, and he's young. He's only a few years out of college. And he, instead of going the job path, he knew his path was being an entrepreneur. And he said, I had absolutely no excuse for doing anything else other than starting my own business. And he went into college with the marketing degree. So he started his own, marketing company, and that worked out for him. But he said, when you're young and fresh out of college, you have absolutely no excuse, especially if you're still living with your parents and not even, married yet and not have a family yet. He's like, there's no excuse for you, no matter what you do, even if you do have a job. You can have your own side hustle business if you truly wanted to do that. And when you don't have those, family commitments yet, there's no excuse. He's like, you could be staying up till, instead of going out drinking on a Friday night, he's like, you could be doing your hustle, your side hustle business on the weekend instead. So I know that was an earful. I know.
But that's mindset, though.
Mm-hmm.
That is a mindset thing. The mindset that we have when we're young and we're working for somebody else is that mindset is, hey, we're safe and secure in our jobs. That's the mindset. So this individual that you just brought up, Renee, his mindset has his belief system is now, hey, I have to go out there and do this for myself. Being an entrepreneur, I cannot depend on my well-being being in the hands of someone that has control of my well-being, and I don't. David, you had something that you want to say?
Yeah. Honestly, it's a good topic to speak about, I think, and there's a reason why I personally have my own saying or my own tagline is "Pave the way for your dreams." It's because I literally believe that we have to pave that path. It's not just, it doesn't come out of nowhere. I snap my fingers and the dream is there, right? So you have to literally put that in place. But I think, Jay, it's good that you pointed out the mindset side of it, because even though I'm coming from India, and I would distinguish two sections of this huge country that I'm a part of. One is the typical mindset, as you described it, of getting educated, getting a job because of the backwardness of society before, and how much education liberated the people at that time. So you have that one section in the country who is the majority of the workforce, who is the majority of doing the daily jobs and stuff like that. And then you have a section who goes into educating themselves because they want to, because they have ideas, because they're creative. I was fortunate enough to be a part of this side of society, let's say in India. So the people I was surrounded with, I don't even think I personally started two businesses while I was in college. So that was the kind of mindset that we got because of being creative enough for yourself. Now my situation changed. I left a nice flourishing business on my own in India and I moved to Europe. So yes, I changed my whole situation and I had to start to look at it in a different angle. But at the same time, I think it's highly this mindset change of understanding what is a career first and foremost. Like, do you think of it as a job, or do you think of it as your life? Because honestly, I'm still building my career, and it doesn't matter what job I'm doing. I will still be building my career, and that's in my hands. That's in nobody else's hands. And it's just a switch actually to change it into understanding that it's yours and not your boss's, who defines what development plan you want for you to reach, I don't know, X level in your company or wherever it is. And that's so powerful once that switch is made, right? At least for me. And I know I made it at a young age, and I'm fortunate enough to make it at a young age, seriously. But I know that it doesn't click well with people. And myself, like in this company that I've been a part of for the last 2 years, I've had two major changes, going from a customer support side to a managerial side, and then to now a business development side for the day job that I have. Okay. Do I want to do that forever? No. But the changes that I made, I've realized also that many people here in the Czech Republic or in Europe still have the same mindset of, oh no, my career is my job. If this job is not good for me, let's look for another one. I need to develop my career here. Well, it's not really. If you really want to you really want to look at your dream as a whole, and it's something that we all have done, we've gone and realize the reality that one income stream cannot support us. And that's not in our control. That's how society is at the moment. That's the financial situation of the whole world. There's no specific country. So having a side hustle is by default, I think, important. And to that extent, I think even my grandfather had a side hustle, even if it was getting like mutual funds and stocks and investments, whatever it is, that was a side hustle. So the side hustle always existed. It's just in different concepts right now. And people need to understand that concept of what it is at the moment. And I think owning an online business, to be honest, is literally by default, because being an affiliate for any company is so simple right now. Whether it is a well-known company, whether it is, somebody who's just launching a product, doesn't matter what, that side hustle can be made. I mean, speaking about Gary Vaynerchuk, he gives a prime example of going to garage sales and doing it as a side hustle. Well, technically, you can do that, right? So, I mean, it's all. I would go back to like define more, and it's good. It's a good point, but to pave the way for your dreams is to also to understand your career development and path in a certain way. I think, on a personal level.
As you were speaking about that, David, I was thinking about, or what came to my mind is the two different messages that we get when we're kids. One message that we get, Aslak, is you can be anything you want to be. Mm-hmm. We hear that, don't we? And we tell our kids that. You can be anything you want to be. And then the second message that we get is go get a job. Wait a minute. I thought I could be anything I wanted to be. So what I need to do and be is to go get a job. Two different messages. Then at some point, for a lot of us, we realize that, hey, I'm not being what I want to be. I bought into the notion that being what I want to be is somehow directly tied to me getting a job. But then when things start to set themselves in motion, hey, this job is not doing for me what I really want to be. I remember the reason I went into the military, J. Scott, is because my father wanted me to follow in his footsteps and work for General Motors. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to have an adventure. That's why I went into the military and stayed 20 years, because I enjoyed having the adventure. Why is it that we're told on the one hand we can be what we really want to be, but then we're led off into a different area in our lives by society? Because society gives us the idea that the way to make it, as Ron said in his chat, is like work hard, get a job, work hard. But again, that title in that book from Robert Hollis, how is it working for you? How is it working for you? How do you feel, Aslak, every morning you have to get up and you have to get in that truck? I bet there are some mornings, Aslak, man, I really wished I didn't have to do this today. But necessity says, hey, I got to do it. I have to do it.
It's true. When I wake up in the morning, go to the job, every day I sit and drive to the job and think, oh. Every day. And also what David said about the time. Gary, we had said it. I just write it down here. How do you use the time when you're not or at the work? It's a lot of time available there if you don't watch TV, as you said. And was it Renee who said it? I don't remember. It's frustrating because all people in at least the Western world, they have to achieve something. They have to run, stress. Mm-hmm. there were, before in the 60s, you can have a father in the house go to work. The mother was home with the children and they had money. But today, both our parents have to work to get ends to meet. So this had been happening something there. So I understand that people search for something else than working for the man, as you say it.
You know, you're right. I remember I was raised in that environment. Dad went out and worked. As a matter of fact, Dad had 2 jobs to support his family. Mom was at home. Now, unless you're really financially well off, the majority of people can't live like that. Have to have that 2 income thing going on. I see Jay Scott shaking his head. It's like, yeah, you're living that, aren't you, Jay? Got to have 2 incomes. Have to have. And still with the 2 incomes, it still can be a stretch. It still can be difficult. You know, we're also talk about being risk-free or risk aversion, avoiding that risk. But hey, if I'm working for someone else, I'm at risk. I'm at risk of losing my job without any intervention from me. Just bang, your job is gone. Renee, you mentioned that. Hey, the company, one of the companies that you went to work for, hey, they went bust in a very short period of time after you went to work for them. So that's a risk right there. As an entrepreneur, I'm taking a risk. But you know what, Ron? It's a risk that I'm in control of. That is a major difference right there. I'm in control of it. I talked to a young lady the other day, and she says, well, I'm not going to get into a job that cost me anything. In other words, she wasn't going to, she didn't want to do the startup cost. And I came back to her, you know what I asked her, Renee? You ever paid for a resume in a job search? Whether you paid for someone to do that resume for you or you went out and bought a software package to do it. Did you buy a new outfit to go to that interview? And she came back and she said, yeah. I said, you paid for your job. What's the difference, Asla?
Yeah, just think about one thing. How much do you use in gasoline, diesel, petrol when you drive
To and from
the job and home from the job? That's paying for the job.
Yeah.
Take that amount of money per year. I think you have a decent number.
At one point, because I don't like city living, so I stayed out in the rural area, but I worked in the city. Man, it was $200-300 a month in gas for me back and forth, just for the job. $200-300 a month. Now that I work from home, guess what? Hey, that $200 or $300 a month that I was spending in a gas bill going back and forth from home to work, I can take that now and budget that into the operations of my business. So that's a good point, Oslot. Month to month, you're paying for that job. And where's that $200 or $300 a month coming from? It's not just laying there in a box somewhere. It's coming right out of your take-home pay. And then the risk that is inherent in working for someone else is always there. It's always there. The risk of whether or not my business is going to be successful, it's always there. One I'm in control of and the other I'm not. But people are so safe and secure in their jobs, and they're so they're in a financial situation where they can't see themselves clear to start up their own business, that they run back to that safe harbor, Jay Scott. And that safe harbor is what? It's that job that may not be there come Monday. may not be there. I remember the feeling I had just prior to me starting my business back in 2016. And it wasn't long after that I met Renee when I started my business. Went to work one day. It was January 19th, 2016. I never will forget it.
My birthday.
Well, it wasn't much of a birthday present for me there, Ron. I got back from work after having gone to lunch. And the HR manager met me in the hallway, took me into a little office, and told me, we no longer need your services.
Downsizing.
Yeah. Now, when I woke up that morning, David, I had a job. I had no reason to believe, none whatsoever, that that day would be my last day at that company. No reason to believe it at all. Luckily for me, I knew some people in another company so I could go get another job. And it was at that point, man, I'm going into business for myself. I can't live like this. I can't do it like this anymore. Hey, they told me if I worked hard, and if I got good grades in school, and after I graduated from high school and college and got a job, man, everything would be okay. That's what I was told. That's what society told each and every one of us. We were lied to and didn't even know we were being lied to when you really think about it. And that thing about you can be what you want to be, but go get a job. Wow. What an oxymoron.
And the thing is, the people saying that you could be whatever you want to be and you get a job and you'll be okay, they don't even realize that they're lying. That's the thing, you know.
No.
Because
that's what they were told, and that's what they honestly think, because they don't know any better.
I mean, you can have exceptions to that. You can find something that you want to be and that the job is right for you and you become a, but again, it is learning a skill set that makes you valuable for that position, for that endeavor that you want to be.
And you know what? You know what, David, about those skill sets? Nobody can take those away from you.
Exactly. And that's what I was talking about in terms of career. If you think about it in skill sets, that's what needs to be developed. And in fact, for example, even myself right now, in the position that I'm in, I know that I can be thrown out at any point of time. I do know that. But at the same time, the reason for me going there and applying for a business development job is, and Renee knows this, I already spoke to her, is that I personally want to have more of an experience and a skill set with account management. So that skill set is going to help me personally. Why? Because in my personal business, I'm going to take that and use those skill sets. And that's the main reason. So if I have that, that focused approach, then it doesn't bother me. But a prime example, and it just came to my head right now, but my dad, for example, is a clear, well, we sold our family business way back to a big multinational company, European company. And my dad was one of the few people who stayed with the company because, when they take over and stuff like that, my dad was one of the few who stayed. But he was valuable because of the skill sets in the company. So he decided, I don't want a business of my own. Whatever I come up with, he basically came up with a mathematical language or algorithm, for identifying the life expectancy of motors. So considering that he was the expert because he created it, again, he was valuable, and he said, I could go out and actually create a company of my own, but I don't want to. It's too much of a hassle for me right now, and I prefer just being there and being the expert and getting whatever benefits are there from that. And that's fine, but the skill set was needed. And that's the point that I'm trying to, dig at, not anything else, but the skill set was needed. So, for example, and I'm going to use a very generic example, marketing is a high income skill set. Trading is a high income skill set. Copywriting is a high income skill set. I can go on and name various skill sets. You don't need to go to school to learn these skill sets. And if you have a job, you can still learn these skill sets.
Yeah, we all have things that are inherent in us. People ask you, how did you learn that? Well, I don't know how I learned it. It was just something that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it's just a part of me. And then there are other things that, hey, we learn along the way. I never knew when I was a kid, I never knew that I would love public speaking. But then when I got into the military and that became part of what I did in my job every day, it was like, wow, I really love this. And then people, well, how did you learn public speaking? I didn't learn it. It was just something that was natural for me. Yeah, it's like my brother. He's naturally a great carpenter, just naturally. The things that he does, it's like, man, how in the world do you do that? And he doesn't give it any thought. He just does it. Me, man, I gotta, in step one, then step two. And he just fast. It just flows from it. So things just flow from us naturally. And it's what we do with them that makes the difference, though. It's what we do with them. I was like, you had something?
Yeah, just as you said, your brother was a natural carpenter. My uncle is that too. I have two friends. They just give them some engine parts and they fix it. They make it. If something is wrong with the car, you can go to them and they can put it together. Just get the parts, and it's natural for them. It's fall into place. I have 10 thumbs. So
when we were kids, Asla, one of the things that me and my other brother would say is like, don't give Bobby any of your mechanical toys because he's going to tear them down to see how they work, But he would put it back together, because he had that natural ability.
Eventually.
Yeah. It's like, but if you don't want him to tear it down, don't give it to him. Him and a cousin of mine were like that. They had that natural ability. Keep yourself trained up, because this business is not, whatever business you're in is not static. Especially if you're leveraging internet technologies. No way is that static. It's dynamic. So keep yourself trained up. Go ahead, Ron.
I went back to school in 1978 and got a degree in electronics, AAS degree in electronics. Well, you'd think you'd just go out and get a job. Well, there were no jobs in computers and electronics in 1979.
Mm-hmm.
Jobs and all those guys were still playing in the garage, And so I became a plumber. That's what I had done while I was in school. I went to apprentice as a plumber with a guy. And I just ended up being a plumber. And that led into HVAC, electronics, which I loved electrical work, so I ended up in HVAC. And in 2009, I went to a wedding reception and woke up, say 10 days later, with a big tube down my throat and my arm strapped down, and that was the end of my working career.
Yeah.
And then I found out that the man I was working for hadn't paid any insurance on me.
Yeah.
So I had nothing.
Yeah.
So that's one other thing that you've got to be careful of too, your health.
Yeah. That's true. Taking care of yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, taking care of yourself. One of the people that we know, and I'm sure you've heard this story from her, Renee. One of the people that we know, she worked with a guy in England, and the guy ran off with all the money.
Yep.
Left her high and dry. And so, she looked at that as the end of the world for her, but then she changed her mindset. It's like, nope, move on, get past it, move on. Went into business for herself, because her motivation for going into business for herself was, I'll never let this happen to me again. Never. And now she's thriving. Yeah, now she's thriving. But I just wanted to bring that up again as I was reading Robert Hollis's book last night. That just dawned on me about, the American dream, or the dream, if you will, and how in a lot of cases throughout the world, as David said, people are not realizing that dream that they were sold when we were kids coming up. Yeah.
But you can turn that dream into whatever you want it to be.
Absolutely.
You know, it could be like what David said, the career path, but career can mean so many things. It could be starting out and, you know, working your job and developing those skills and using it for your business. You know, there's nothing wrong with that either. And that's the thing I wanted to bring home for today is that, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a job. If you love your job, you know, and you're good at your job, continue with your job. If you're good with your hands, if you're good, you know, whatever skill that is that you're good, continue doing that. But there's nothing wrong with also having a side business or something that can turn into something full-time. It's really up to you. You get to decide what that dream is for you. And that's the point, is you decide what that dream is. If it is, you know, being really great at the job that you have, fantastic. If it's starting your own business, fantastic as well. So that's it.
That's it for today?
Yeah. We're just about out of time. I know, it kind of flies.
Yeah, it does.
Really fast. So thank you all for being on today. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you all very soon.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Oh, yes. Happy New Year, everybody.
Okay.
All right.